Welcome to this episode of Locked In. In this video, I'm finally going to be doing my full review of the 12-speed conversion kit from Ratio Technology. So if you're looking for a true, honest, mechanical SRAM mullet setup or want to go 12-speed even on a road bike, please stay tuned and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the specs and compatibility of this conversion kit, the installation process, price, and my final thoughts. So let's get into what this kit actually consists of. So this kit is essentially three main components depending on the style of frame that you have and what your needs are on the bike. So the first piece is the 12-speed ratchet mechanism. Now this is going to slot into your standard mechanical or hydraulic levers and basically convert the 11-speed ratchet that's already in there into a 12-speed compatible ratchet. Then it's going to give you a fin or cable pull replacement for your SRAM compatible mountain derailleurs. Now these are listed all on their website, so make sure to check what's compatible. Basically, it has to be anything above a GX level. And what I used in this review is a GX lunar derailleur, which is the new gen that takes up to a 52-tooth rear cog. Then the only other modification that you can get, either in a bundle or get later, is a rear cable exit kit that allows you to work with a different frame style, and I'll be getting into that in just a second. So those are your three main components. So you're simply going to have to replace the ratchet, change the fin, and then potentially add in that last piece for a rear cable exit style frame. So that's going to lead me into the compatibility of this kit. Now, when you buy just the ratchet, that is going to give you, again, that 12-speed compatibility. Now, that is still going to talk to your standard road rear derailleur. So in my case, I had a modified Apex 1 with a Garbaruk caged rear derailleur. So that is stated to take up to a 50-tooth cassette. So with this kit, I could just install the ratchet, and as you can see here, it works fine and shifts flawlessly with this 12-speed Garbaruk cassette. So if you already have a modified cage and just want to go 12-speed, because those cassettes are honestly super easy to get secondhand, you can simply just do this upgrade and just simply replace the ratchet and go 12-speed. If that's all you're looking for, you can just simply install the ratchet. Now, the other end of the compatibility issue that you have to be mindful of and what kit to order is how basically your rear derailleur cable exits the frame. There are two different styles. Basically, the standard kit is going to offer somebody who has a rear cable exit that basically is in front of the rear axle, and I'll show a picture here of what they recommend as far as the distance for the cable to come out of the frame. And they just updated their kit and upgrade kit to include a piece that basically is going to allow this kit to work with a rear style derailleur cable exit like my Cobalt Warhawk. So if your derailleur cable exits out of basically the rear chainstay or seat stay in that general area really close to the rear axle, you're going to need to upgrade and get this fin kit. And then as far as derailleurs go, like I'm going to say again, is make sure you're going to find a compatible derailleur, looking over what they recommend on their website. And lastly, the reason why you have to get a GX level or above is because the NX and SX rear derailleurs do not have a fin that is unboltable. So you have to go with at least that level or above so you can make the cable conversion work. Which is going to lead me into installation, because my scenario on this installation was a little different, but I found a way around it. So let's get into the install. Now, as far as the install goes, I'm not going to say this is a tutorial. Please go watch their install videos. They're very well done and literally exactly what I did. I had it pulled up on my computer and then basically watched one step, did it on my table as you can see in all this footage here, and then simply just went through the steps. So let's go through each individual major process. The first one is replacing your ratchet. Honestly, this was super easy because of their video, but it is a lot of small parts, and if you're not comfortable doing this, take it to a bike shop and ask if they'll be willing to do it for you. Essentially, they're just replacing the ratchet mechanism, which technically can be a standard repair if somehow you broke it. So doing this, it was honestly really easy to take it apart. Putting it back in, it was a little finicky to get the ratchet to align just right and slide the kind of basically guide pin back in to reassemble the whole thing. That was honestly the hardest and longest part of doing it. Is just it kept not wanting to align or it would slip. So that took me a little bit of time, but I honestly swapped the ratchet in about 15 to 20 minutes or so. So it wasn't really difficult, and you can definitely do this at home. Now let's get on to the fin replacement. This, no brainer, super, super easy. You basically just replace the fin that's currently on the derailleur. You do have to take off a circlip, which is a little finicky, but they do offer a spare one in case that thing goes flying. So you can replace it easily if you potentially do lose it. But that only took me a few minutes to do. So now on to the last part for me. I had to use the rear exit cable kit, and so basically you have to undo this pulley wheel on the back of the GX derailleur. Now on the lunar kits, they are riveted in. I didn't know that. I thought it was still gonna work. I got the derailleur, And typically this would be a simple 3mm Allen head that you would simply unscrew, and you can see that on their instruction guide on how to do this. So it should have been a lot easier. Now what I ended up having to do, and they even responded to my email and reached out and replied the same thing, if you do happen to get a riveted GX or above rear derailleur, if you're brave enough like I was to show you that you can do this yourself, is simply you're gonna have to drill that rivet out. So I went the cautious route and did a 3mm bit into it, so I didn't have to potentially make that hole kind of oblong, but they recommend a 4mm bit, which is the exact size of that. So basically all you're gonna do is drill through the front side of the derailleur. It's gonna basically just drill out that rivet completely. That part of the derailleur that you're drilling through is all that really matters, because the backside of that pulley is just a piece you're gonna have to sacrifice anyway. So you cannot backwards convert these riveted on derailleurs like you could with a bolt-on style if you wanted. But besides that, it really wasn't that hard. The drill bit I used in this footage was really, really dull apparently, and it took longer just because it was a dull drill bit. But honestly, this should take you no more than 10 minutes or so, taking your time, obviously. So after that, you just install the derailleur like normal, run your standard cable like you would normally to the derailleur, put on your chain, and then just adjust your limits like you would accordingly. And honestly, it's just a few extra steps than doing a standard drivetrain. Now let's get into price. So the upgrade kit by itself for the non-rear cable exit is gonna be about $90 US, and the conversion kit with the rear exit cable piece, which is an extra piece, is gonna be about $115 US. Shipping is gonna vary depending on where you live. And they do offer, again, other components to make this conversion even easier for you, like I said, with already converted GX derailleurs. So make sure to check that out in the links below. So now let's get into my final thoughts. Honestly, I've ridden this kit for about 200 miles by the time this video is up, and I'll be doing a long-term review of it later down the line, so make sure, again, to subscribe and turn notifications on if you haven't already, if anything changes. But out of the box, I think this honestly makes my Apex shifter, which granted does have a good amount of miles on it, feel even better and feels very similar to a Force level of shifter that I've worked on and tuned with my buddy's bike before. So honestly, the shift quality in the lever actually felt better than it before. Even though this is a 3D metal printed piece, I didn't know if it was going to shift any better than the stock OEM piece. Besides that, after indexing and breaking the cable's tension in and readjusting, this thing shifts like OEM. I'm really, really happy with it. Even with the GX derailleur, which I believe has a stronger clutch than my Apex unit, or maybe that one's just a little worn out, it shifts really fast and really hard, gets into all the gears easily, and I have been doing it with a combination of this Garbaruk 10-52 12-speed cassette, which I'll be doing a future review on this channel. But this combination felt great. I mean, obviously a new drivetrain is always going to feel good, but the shift quality is excellent. It gets in between gears really, really quickly. There's no kind of sense that this is not an OEM conversion. So last two things, who I think this component group is good for. I honestly think that anyone has a current 11-speed bike that wants to breathe new life into it, this is going to be the setup for them. If you're running 11-speed road and you want that 12-speed range or just that extra gear to give you, again, that smoother cadence, this is an easy way to do it. And there's plenty of aftermarket 12-speed options now in kind of any range from OEM or aftermarket. So I think anybody riding road that wants to just add that extra gear in there to smooth that cassette out a little bit, I think it's great. Next, you have your already modified, potentially, like my Cobalt Warhawk, gravel rider. I think this is a worthwhile upgrade. If you don't need to extend that capacity like I did from the 50-tooth Garbaruk capacity to the 52-tooth, this is going to be an easy way to go about it, and keeping a mechanical setup. And basically all you'd have to do is replace your cassette and your ratchet mechanism if you wanted. Lastly, someone who's doing a fresh build or really wants the maximum climbing gear they can do for the ultimate bike packing setup or gravel rig, or just wants that super easy climbing gear because they like to spin. This kit with all basically OEM parts, you can order brand new. Yes, you do have to modify some things. The derailleur modifications I think are a little bit easier than the Garbaruk cage because you're not dealing with that clutch and that thing eventually spinning on you. You are dealing with smaller parts, but I think the install process is a little bit easier as far as the derailleur goes. Now the shifter install, yes, you have to be a little bit more comfortable with mechanical, with ripping into your shifter. I don't think you could massively mess up this install. I think honestly you're most likely gonna lose something small, but I think that honestly it isn't that hard, again, with that great video that Ratio provides on their website. So if you're looking for the true 1x12 drivetrain or your 2x12 drivetrain and you don't want to have to shell out a bunch of money for electronic, this is honestly the only way you can currently go right now that I know of, because I don't think that SRAM or Shimano or anybody else is going to do something of this capacity at this price point for mechanical for a while potentially, because electronics selling so well and they're making their money. So I hope you like this video. If you haven't, please make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you can see all the cycling content I put out on this channel. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links for that, as well as my Spreadshirt and my Pateron, are in the links below to help support Locked In so I can make more cycling content for you every single week. And lastly, thanks for watching another episode of Locked In.